Welcome, everybody, to another edition of A Conversation With. I'm E. Spencer Kite for SevereMMA here on the YouTube page with, as you can see, UFC 281 Victor, Dan the Hangman Hooker. Dan, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate you getting home, touching down, and talking to me right away. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Nah, no trouble. Once I saw your message, I was more than happy to. I think you write better than anyone in regards to MMA. No word of a lie. I think you've done some incredible stories over here. Like fighters are not necessarily the easiest people to get a story out of, and I think
whatever do you mean?
And I think you do a fantastic job of guys that maybe are not so good at. I think fans hear a lot from guys that are good at storytellers. Like the bigger name guys can obviously do interviews and they're very competent speaking to the media. But I feel like there are a lot of fighters like, man, I remember like you would have done when I first started fighting in the UFC, like my very early, before I had any kind of media experience whatsoever. and you were able to write some pretty incredible stories from essentially nothing,
I remember talking to a very, I don't want to say like shell-shocked because it was before a fight, but a very like, I don't want to be here, Dan Hooker in Houston, Texas at UFC 192 at that media day. I think was the first time we ever spoke, and you were just sitting with the lads and nobody was coming around, and I was like, how come nobody's talking to Dan Hooker? Like, this is a big fight. He's fighting Yair Rodriguez. This is important. Let me go see what's up with the guy. He's traveled a long fucking way to be here. Like, yeah, let's see what's up.
It just comes from experience. So once you get a bit more experienced at it, it becomes like obviously a lot easier. But it's definitely something that no one kind of takes you aside and trains you for. It's just right. On the job experience. You just learn it as you come, and you learn that the fans just want to like know the truth. And it's like once you figure that out, that the fans just want your honest opinion.
Yeah, they just want to know about you.
They just want to know. They just want to know what's going on. So that's like the cool part about it. Like before you're getting in, like you think, oh man, I need to create a character, or I need to put on a show, or I need to do this and that. And it's like when you find out you don't actually need to do anything. You just need to sit back and tell the truth, and the fans genuinely appreciate that. I think that kind of made it a lot easier for me, anyway.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the kind words. It's part of the reason, though, as well as what you're saying is why I wanted to launch a show like this, just to have athletes like yourself. Broadcasters had John Gooden on recently, had some coaches on, just to let people know both a little bit more of the journey into MMA or connection to combat sports, but also just, you know, as we just said, fans just want to know, like, what did Dan Hooker have for breakfast the day after just random shit. And we'll get to all of that. Yeah. But I think we have to start. Normally I would start with the same question, but because you're coming off a fight, we have to start with UFC 281 at Madison Square Garden. A terrific victory, second round stoppage win over Claudio Puelles, a big kiss on the bald dome of Joe Rogan. And you said, as we were getting ready to start, that the black eyes might be from the after party. I imagine that was one of the sweeter after parties, and probably felt pretty damn good after a couple of losses, a couple tough fights, and just a little like reminder of, oh yeah, all you bastards, this is what I'm capable of. Now we're gonna go have fun.
That's kind of what people were expecting, but it really wasn't. Like it was weird. It was weird to explain it because like obviously like our team went 2-2. Our team went 2 wins, right. 2 losses. So like for our team, for everyone that like follows us and supports about us, like that day was a heavy day.
Right.
That was a heavy day. It was a heavy roller coaster of emotions because obviously like Carlos had the win, then Brad was unsuccessful. I had the win, then Israel was obviously unsuccessful. Like it was a roller coaster of a day, and we were kind of riding that roller coaster as well. And it was weird. Like we only went to the after party because Israel like tricked us into going. Like Israel put his mink coat on, and he was like, "That's us boys. Like we're going to the after party. We're going to have a great night." because we're all kind of going to go home. Like the mood had really shifted from that fight. But once he convinced us all that we were going to go, we ended up at the after party till we realized he wasn't going to show up. So he, like him being a good teammate, kind of tricked us into kind of changing our mood and letting us like enjoy the wins a bit. But yeah, like it was, to be honest.
So he got all of you guys out and then didn't turn up.
Yeah, like he organized like a bus for all of us. He like genuinely got dressed and convinced us all that we were going. We got on the bus. We get there. We get to like our section. We start like drinking. We're standing around. Like after an hour or two, like we're like, man, where's Israel? Blah blah blah. And then like 2 hours in, and we're already had a few drinks. And he's like, yeah, he's not coming. But he'd already got us there.
Right.
He'd already accomplished his mission before we found out that he wasn't going to show up. So yeah, I wouldn't say like super happy, ecstatic day.
Right.
That was one of the weirdest, heaviest roller coaster rides of emotion that I've been on.
Yeah, if we can get into it, because it's one of the things I do have down here. Obviously, as you mentioned, 4 of you on the card. Starts off brilliantly. Carlos has, in my opinion, the best performance of his MMA career to date. Really patient, good finish, great effort, 3 straight wins now. Then Brad, then you, and then Israel. How do you guys, like, obviously come over together? You're all in a house together. Everybody is certainly there to support one another, but you also have to compartmentalize a little, I would imagine, for yourself. So take me through that roller coaster a little bit, if you can, of what that day is like, of both wanting to be there for your boys, but needing to be at times pretty selfish for yourself.
Yeah. Oh man, you hit the nail on the head with compartmentalize. Like that's what we had to do. We had to, and we're lucky that we've fought on the same cards together, and we've actually experienced this before in the past, and success and failure, and you can't let it distract you. Like it's funny, we go back and we can watch like the videos. We've got it in like our team group, but we've been told like not make it public. But it's like me and Israel's reaction of Carlos's fight, then our reaction, their reaction to my fight, then our reaction. Like it's obvious, it's like all of our reactions from the fight, and it's quite funny. Like Israel. The team reacting to my win, like that's when Israel has kind of switched gear and he's preparing for his own fight. So he kind of he's sitting there getting his hand wrapped as I finish my fight, and he more just like smirks, like he smirks, and he's just like kind of like a confident, I knew that was going to happen smirk. But his reaction to Carlos Olberg's fight, like he's
going crazy.
Dan there snaps the table in half. Like he's just slamming the table. I was like, man, he's got to break his hand. I was like, he can't hit the table.
Be careful, Easy. You got shit to do with that hand later.
Because like it was only 6 p.m. Like it wasn't time for him to like lock in yet. He can enjoy and experience that. So I would say, yeah, when it came time to lock in, we locked in. Like I was warming up for my fight as I was watching Brad's. There was absolutely no time to process that or feel any type of way about how that fight went. There was just no time. Like I was going to walk 15, 20 minutes after the end of that fight. So it's just that compartmentalization, just keep everything completely separate.
You mentioned you guys have had experience doing this, obviously, various shows in Australia and New Zealand. We see members of the team and you fight in groups at times. And I know you and I have talked about it in the past. You like to fight with your teammates because, hey, the coaches are over there. Let's get a bunch of us on the card so that we can bring more people. Does it get easier every time you do it? Is it an experience thing where the more comfortable you are with it, the easier it is to take, the better it is to deal with? Or is it still just as hard each time because, that's Brad going out there and having a tough night to where he's now announced that he's going to take some time away to rekindle that fire?
Nah, it definitely doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get any easier. It's just an absolute roller coaster. Like we're all kind of compartmentalize it. We block it out. We put on a brave face, but it's just like when you get back to New Zealand and it all like hits you at home and it sinks in. You're just like, man, that was stressful. That was an experience. Like one of us fighting on a card is an experience, but having a roller coaster, like Eugene puts that together, right? Like Eugene puts that together. Like he must win a world title and just be like, this isn't enough. I need more. Like he's the reason for it. Like he's ridiculous. Like the emotional roller coaster.
He's the one that's out there like guiding the road. He's the one steering the ship every time. So it's got to be even crazier for him.
Like it's one heck of a ride. Like every New Zealand fan that was like supporting us all and riding that roller coaster together was just like, oh, what a day. Like it was a crazy day.
So one of the things, and we'll move on from this subject after this, we hear athletes talk all the time about, look, it's an individual sport, but it's still beyond me being solo in the actual octagon. This is a team sport. From a night like that, where you have success, Carlos has success, but Brad and Israel do not, what's the greater feeling, I guess, or what's the overall feeling? Like, obviously you're excited for yourself. You're happy that you went out and performed to the best of your abilities. But my sense from knowing you a little bit and knowing the team a little bit is that yourself and Carlos, despite victory, come away overall disappointed because your friends weren't able to share that with you and have that same success.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't make, like, I think there are people that won't make sense to them. Like, I think there are people that are like, what do you mean Dan didn't come away like wanting to really enjoy an after party? He earned it.
It's a team sport, man. It's a team sport.
I agree.
I absolutely couldn't do it without those guys. And this is me personally. Like, I haven't talked to the coaches or anything like that. It was an incredible experience, but it wasn't perfect.
Right.
And as a team, we strive for is perfection. Like we went there to win every fight. We went there to go 4-0. We went there for 4 impressive performances. So yeah, like we did fail a little bit. And like as a team member, as someone working in that, like I can't, like that overrides me being happy for myself.
Right.
I'm more looking forward to the future and how we correct that and how we improve on those things and correct the parts that maybe we did fail. Because yeah, the overriding, it's a weird mix because I'm not over the moon, super excited like I would have been had Brad and Israel won as well. Yeah, I'd say the overriding emotion is that we weren't successful.
Right.
Even though we were.
Which as I said, I think a lot of people would be confused by that because obviously, as we said off the top, you had a great performance. You yourself individually handled your responsibility, did what you expected to do, navigated some, I know they weren't as dicey as some people maybe think in the first round, but he's a tricky little bastard to deal with. And he's Imanari rolling and grabbing your foot and trying to get stuff, and you navigate and get the win. And so I think a lot of people go, well, he should just get in the back and be through the roof. And now he's home and he's settled and a couple days for it to pass and he should be overjoyed. But it sounds like, yeah, I'm happy for me. But at the end of the day, I want everybody to succeed. And if we don't, there's work to do.
I think the only person that saved it was Israel. Right. I think him, the way that he handled the situation saved the whole team because we, like me and Carlos, were ready to just go home. Like we were absolutely, we were upset. We were not happy with how the night played out. Like and the boys out back, like the mood was a bit somber. Me and Carlos, we were going to go home and go to bed. Like we were not going to go to the after party. Like, we were not going to do anything. It was only because the way that Israel responded to it, that he was put on a very brave face, and he was like, guys, like, I'm still incredibly blessed to be here. We've had an incredible preparation and an incredible week. Let's go and enjoy ourselves. Like, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. He saved that altogether. I'd say that we were going to call off the night completely until Israel handled it like an absolute champion and just let us enjoy it to some extent, for sure.
And suckered you into going to an after party that he didn't turn up to.
He's great. There's best in the world at feints. That was his after party.
So you finish fighting, you get in the back. It's finally, I mean, you obviously had the like post weight cut meal where you finally get to eat some stuff that you enjoy, but that's one of those, like, I have to be careful in terms of what I'm putting in and consumption and things like that. Fight's done. What's the go-to for Dan Hooker? I know you and Oscar often do the smell a bottle of beer during fight week to get to like, oh, is it right to a beer? Is it to a slice of pizza in New York? Like, what did we enjoy in the immediate aftermath of victory?
Beers galore. I get out back to the PR team, and there's Nobby out back. She works for the UFC, and I'm just straight to her and I say, where are the beers? Go and get me beers. I'm not doing any interviews until I have some liquid gold in my hands. And they went and got me some beers. So yeah, a couple quiet beers with the team. That's my go-to. That's my go-to after a fight where you don't get knocks to the head. That's the only way to celebrate.
I imagine those are some of the tastiest beers that you can possibly have.
They were.
So I know you basically came out afterwards and were like, great, got a victory. There's a show in Perth. Let's go. Are we, I think we talked probably like a year ago when you were stuck in Vegas and you were like, look, if I'm going to be stuck here, I want to fight every like 3 weeks. I want to just, every card that these guys have, sign me up. If I'm healthy, let's go. Is 2023 going to be the year that Dan Hooker gets his wish and gets to try, hopefully, to do the like, let's get 5 or 6 fights? Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're just raring to go and let's get after this.
If I'm healthy and I'm in like a good space, then I don't see why I shouldn't be competing. I don't take my health for granted. I don't take this opportunity that I've been given for granted and been blessed with these opportunities. I don't take any of that for granted. So I try to maximize it to the absolute extent. Like if I'm feeling good and healthy, then I will look to compete and look to fight. Like, and I don't care who it's against or where it is or anything like that. I'm not going to waste how good I feel on sitting on the couch and picking and choosing. I want to make the most of it.
Yeah, I know one of the things you said in doing my prep for this was sort of along those lines of like, I don't care. Like, I think somebody threw some names at you and you were like, sure. Like, I don't care who it is. Like, I'm not going to pick and choose between Tony Ferguson and if it's got to be Fiziev, if it's got to be some other up and comer that's, similar to Claudio Puelles, who's on a winning streak, but isn't ranked and I'm the big test for him. Sure. Just bring me warm bodies. I would like to stay active.
Yeah. That's, it's not like, that's another, part that's like difficult for people to understand. For me, like I use the sport as like an outlet to like improve myself and test myself. So it's not about these other guys and the guys standing across from me, because I know that if I'm competing at my best, that it doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
If it's me versus me, and if I'm on and I'm having a good night and I'm in a good place, then I can beat anybody in the world. So I don't care who you put across from me. I don't look at them as like enemies or I hate these guys. Like these guys are more like me than anybody else walking the earth. We've been through the same things. We go through the same circumstances. We have the same passions in life. So it's hard for me to like hate any of these guys,
Right.
because they're so similar to me. It's like hating yourself would be a very, it's a weird space.
Yeah. You mentioned in there a couple of times, sort of, as long as you're right, both physically and mentally. I know in advance of the fight on the weekend, you said this is sort of the best I've been physically and mentally, and the best I've felt in a while. We hadn't seen you since March, since the fight with Arnold Allen in London. I'm assuming there was some time in there where you weren't feeling your best physically and mentally. What's that roller coaster like for you? What's that ebb and flow of the mental side of things? Because I know, Eugene, in prepping and sort of talking about the lead up to this event, talked about Dan was the first one that was like, okay, I've got some shit I need to fix. Let's correct it. Let's make improvements. What was that sort of, was it more mental? Was it more physical? Was it both? What was it that you needed to correct to get to where you were 3 days before the fight saying, this is the best I've felt in a long, long time?
Yeah, I guess I've had a lot of experience of dealing with losses. Like, because I take the risks that I take and I put myself in these kind of circumstances, like that's not a recipe for undefeated record. Like that is a recipe for challenging times. So I'm very experienced at processing these challenging situations. And so I knew kind of how to deal with it. I knew after that, the last loss, like how to process those emotions. You don't have to feel any type of way. You don't have to be in like a rush to get over it or rush to get through it. You just need to like take some time and just sit with that emotion, like sit with how you're feeling, because that's the first time that I truly experienced like a defeat like that, under those circumstances, being so far away from home. So to just sit with it and experience it, like you realize that the sun comes up the next day. You realize that you're not going to feel like that forever. Like it's like the flame gets put out, but the flame slowly starts to build again. And you do get that hunger back if you just take enough time. But there was a lot of learning done in that time. And there was a lot of like emotional maturity done in that time. And more to realizing that I was the sole reason that I was in that position. I was the sole reason that had led to these difficult circumstances. It was all my fault. So it's like, how do I put the right people that I trust in the right places, that this doesn't happen again, that I can, have now Eugene and Ash like taking care of my fights and booking my career, so I don't make these stupid decisions again, and my team is around me, and I do appreciate my coaches and I do appreciate my teammates being there for me. So it's just taking like enough time to realize how to fix and how to construct a path moving forward so it doesn't happen again.
So that sounds to me a little bit like Dan Hooker got a little stubborn and said, yeah, I'll just take that fight. I want to fight. Sure. I'll go back down to featherweight. Yep. Great. And then came away from it and was like, well, that was dumb, Dan.
Bad decision that had led to those results, I had been advised against. In that whole streak. Like, you can go back to like the Dustin Poirier fight. Like, I was offered that fight and they said, we know your country is like shut down at the moment. Maybe we could push that fight and you can have more time. And I was like, no, I want to fight him in 4 weeks. Like, it was just silly. Like, in the next one, like Chandler, like, okay, you're going to have like no coach. You're not going to have any coaches that are going to be able to go with you because you're stuck. And that stubborn, bullheaded fighter that thinks that he can do it all on his own, like, was like, no, I don't need them. I can do it on my own. I'm going to fly over there by myself. And like, it's not till you go through those experiences that you can truly learn and appreciate from them.
So for myself in Canada, and I think a lot of people in North America and certainly in Europe, we don't quite understand the scope of what lockdowns were like in New Zealand and in Australia. Can you walk me through preparing for some of the biggest fights of your career amidst those circumstances where you're not getting into the gym, where you're training in your garage, where at one point you decided, like, fuck it, I'm just going to stay in the States because at least I can go into the PI and I've got Hickman here and I can do some training. I can actually get a little bit of work in. Without getting yourself in trouble with the government of New Zealand.
Nah, I don't care about getting in trouble. But like, genuinely, I don't think anyone, like, I can only show them. And I feel like I began to show them in the weekend. I feel like that's like the first step. Like, I feel like that's a better way to describe what I was going through and the difficult times. Because I feel like if I sit here just it's going to sound like I'm just sitting here and making excuses. So rather than do that, I'll just, like, people got a glimpse of it in the weekend. They're
right.
like, oh, shit. They're like, well, that looks like the Dan Hooker before
right.
all of this stuff. Like, what? Oh,
right.
maybe because, like, a lot of people were saying it. Like, everyone was like, yeah, I was training at home. Like, a lot of people were saying that they were experiencing the same circumstances, but it's like, yeah, there was definitely like levels to the constraints. So I would prefer to just go out there and show everyone with future performances of what was going on, and that I am better than I've ever been, and that, yeah, this is not the same Dan Hooker that we saw in those at those times.
In those lockdown times. Yeah. The other part of that is for, North American based fighters that are fighting somewhere in the continental United States, or many of them in Las Vegas, is also different than training and living and wanting to be at home in New Zealand, as you should be, and then flying out to whatever destination you're going to. So going through multiple layers of quarantine and travel restrictions. And so all training situations during this period were not created equal. And I think, as you said, we're getting to see that the real Dan Hooker, the hangman we know and love, is on his way back.
Oh, 1,000%.
I will move forward here. So let's start where I normally would start this show. And that is, when did you fall in love with combat sports? What was the initial step in this journey that has led to, many fights, many disciplines, many years of competing?
Man, when I went to my first live show and I watched my friend Steve Warby fight his first amateur fight, and he knocked someone guy out in about 13 seconds. And I remember that feeling. I remember the feeling of watching my friend get the win, and all of us. I remember that energy that was like, that just exploded through the crowd. Like, you feel it as a friend. You feel that pride. You feel that excitement. You feel that adrenaline rush. Like, I've never felt anything quite like that before. And so to feel that, I just wanted that. I wanted to give that feeling to other people. I wanted to share that feeling throughout my friends and throughout the people that supported me. And so that was like the real thing that got me hooked.
So how old would you have been? Because this doesn't sound like, lots of people, the journey is like, I did karate at 7 and watched the Ninja Turtles. This sounds like 16 or 18-year-old Dan Hooker is in the stands having a beer or 3 and is like, that looks fucking fun.
18. So I was 18. I was just like playing rugby and stuff, like growing up. And yeah, like my friend Steve Warby was always like the toughest guy. And I knew that he was like training, and he said, oh, come down tomorrow. I'm going to have my first fight. I was like, yeah, I'll go down and look, see what this is about. Bang, he knocks this guy out. And I just felt it. I felt the adrenaline. I felt the emotion of it all. I felt the energy that was just shot into my veins. And I was just like, well, looks like I'm just going to do this forever. I was like, this can't be beat. Like, And then, so yeah, like I didn't, oh yeah, I started jujitsu when I was 12 years old. Like
Yeah,
it
no,
wasn't
none
like
of
that.
that.
I nagged him to take me to the gym. He took me to the gym on Monday, and I just like show up to the gym, and I'm just like, how do I have a fight with someone? I was like, you show me how. I will do whatever I need to do. Put my hands here, go like this 3 times that way. Like I will do it. Like show me how I can have a fight. And so that like really sped up my progress and my development, because I stepped in a gym to finish fights pretty much. Like
mindset from the jump
yeah,
was, I want to get in fist fights and I want to knock people out.
yeah. That's what I did. I wasn't like, oh, I'm getting pretty good at this. Oh, I might want to test these skills against someone. No, I was like, I want to put on exciting performances in fights.
So how long between the Monday walking into the gym and the March 7th, 2009 professional debut of Dan Hooker?
About 6 months. I was a week, I think I was a week 19 when I had, my first professional fight. I was a week 19. So I've been training. Yeah, I was like 18 when I walked in the gym, trained for about 6 months, and then just jumped in and had a professional fight 6 months later.
And then I know one of the other things that you and I have spoke about in the past is that you guys yourself, I think it was you and Brad at one point, not got sent away in a like bad sense, but got told, go and train elsewhere, go learn elsewhere, go be with other coaches. What were some of the stops in that journey, and what has been the impact of training around the world and training in these different places to then come back to City and come back to a team and Eugene as a head coach and have a set base where these are the people that, as you said earlier, are now in charge of everything and help me make all the right decisions and get to where I want to be?
Yeah, well, originally, like I didn't start training at City Kickboxing. That was by far the first gym that I'd ever trained with. I knew of Eugene Behrman, but more as an opponent, more as an enemy. My teammates from my gym fought against Eugene like multiple times. I didn't train with him since before my UFC debut.
Right.
And I started training with Eugene. Like he was coming down, I was fighting like a leg lock specialist, and he came down and like helped. And he talks about it now. He's like, sometimes I would come down to the gym and like Eugene was the only guy that would like show up to train with me sometimes. And Eugene's like sitting there thinking, well, if I didn't show up, like who is this guy going to train with
right.
for his UFC debut? Like this is absolutely ridiculous. Because I'm just a wild kid, really. Like when it comes down to it, like the only reason I'm here is because I'm just a wild kid. Like I'm just tough enough that I keep picking myself back up. Like I've not had an easy road. And most people that have been through what I've been through have given up or quit. I just love it. I just love getting out there and I love the whole emotion of the thing. But yeah, so then I began, like I'd go into City Kickboxing and spar with their guys, and I was obviously like friends with the guys through over the years. I traveled overseas to Vietnam. I traveled overseas, trained in Thailand and Denver. And it wasn't until after I was 3-3 in the UFC and I just lost to Jason Knight. And I came back to New Zealand and I started training at City Kickboxing full time. That was before I fought Ross Pearson. That's when I like fully committed to City Kickboxing, and that was like the real turning point of my career, was training with Eugene and Twister and Andre and committing to those guys like full time. But in the same sense, like I was still like a stubborn kid that thought I could do it all on my own. Like I was still like a very stubborn guy that was just like, these guys are great coaches, but this is on me. And it wasn't until like I had those people taken away from me and I couldn't be around my coaches, I couldn't be around my team, that I was just like, man, I can't do it without these guys. I need these guys there with me. I need their energy. I need their instruction. I need their coaching. I need them pushing me for me to truly be the best fighter in the world. I'm maybe not like the shell of Dan Hooker is not gonna do it. He needs these people behind him and these people giving them their energy and their knowledge to truly be successful.
As somebody that had both, you know, essentially training yourself, and you have your own gym, so you train fighters as well, but like did that bouncing around part, what's the value that you can kind of pass along to somebody about finding that right gym and finding that right team and settling in with somebody rather than trying to do it all yourself or just constantly moving around?
Man, it's hard to make like a general rule, because obviously like life hits people in very different times and very different. Sure. Like I can only really explain like my path. Like I truly, like I knew they were the best coaches in the world, but I didn't necessarily like truly invest in them. And it's not till you truly find your coach and you commit to them and you invest in them that you have like that deeper level of trust. So it's like hard for me to say like, oh, just pick one and go with them like 100%, because they might not be the guy that's going to take you that whole way. Like I'm just saying that I have found these people
for sure
that will be my coaches I know that I'm not going to train anywhere else. Like these guys are my coaches for the rest of my martial arts career, and they'll be friends for the rest of my life. Like that's like all I can say.
What was it for you that made that part click? What was it that made these guys, these are my coaches, I'm done, no more going to Denver, no more anywhere else, it's City Kickboxing and that's it?
When I didn't have them, and I missed them so much, like I didn't have them, and I was standing in the octagon without their energy behind my back, without their words of advice in my ears, and having them prepare me for fights, that I was just like, I miss my coaches. I was like, I'm never taking my coaches for granted ever again. Like it wasn't. And so if I hadn't had gone through those COVID times where they had been taken away from me, maybe I would have never reached like this level of appreciation for them. And it's like, once you have like this level of appreciation, you have like a next level of like trust in what they tell you and in what they're saying. So now when they say something in training camp, like you need to do this, like I will, yes, right away, like I will do it because I trust it. Had I not gone through those times, I would have been in the same place where in the back of my head, I'm saying, yeah, that's great advice, but I can do it on my own.
Right.
Now that doubt is gone.
Right. So as we were getting started on this, before we hit record, I mentioned, look at you, you're right back home. You're right in the gym. And you said, there's nowhere else to be. I don't have any hobbies. One of my actual things written down here is, what are the hobbies, pastimes, and secret talents of Dan Hooker that people don't know? None? Fighting and that's it?
If I could sing or dance, I tell you, I wouldn't be standing. I wouldn't be standing in that octagon, mate. There's easier ways to make a living. I'll tell you that. No, I got none. Like obviously, there's stuff I like to do. I'm not very good at it.
What are the things you like to do that you're not good at?
Like go to the beach and hang out with my family and go hiking and stuff like that. But always after training, like that's like I'll do that after I'm finished training. I'm not going to do that instead of going to the gym. I'm just a gym rat.
Yeah.
I am a gym rat. I hang out at the gym. I spend too much time at the gym. I love being in the gym. Like it's just a gym rat.
No watching films. No, like, oh my God, I've got to be home to watch X program. Sure, every once in a while, but after the gym.
Yeah, when I'm tired from the gym, I'll watch.
Can you cook? Do you cook? Like what? We got anything?
Because that's funny though. I was doing one of the boys was like, "Oh, do you want to do it?" Because cooking. Volk's got his cooking show.
Yeah.
Like
loves
cooking
it.
with Volk. And my manager and his manager, we got the same manager, and he's like, "Oh, have you ever thought about doing like a cooking with the hangman?" I go, "What am I gonna do? Sit on the couch and wait for my missus to cook something?" Just me. They'll be like, "Oh, what are we doing on this episode, Dan?" It's just me sitting on the couch going,
"I don't know, honey. What are you making?"
Then every 15 minutes, go, "Babe, babe, I can't cook. I'll chuck stuff in the air fryer, but I can't cook."
Yeah, fair enough. I talked to Volk about his cooking once and told him he needs to put out a line of actual stupid little bowls, because that is the best part of all of the shows, is that he's got everything in their stupid little bowls.
I watch it, but I can't. I don't have the patience for it. He's like, "Yeah, just take your steak out and wait till it reaches room temperature." It's like, man, I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna wait till my steak reaches room temperature. I don't wait for it to rest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get out of the fridge, I chuck it in the pan, and I eat it as soon as it's done. Like, that's patience is not Dan Hooker's strong suit.
Fair enough. You and I are similar in that regard. You mentioned, obviously, spending time with the family. What has the impact of being a girl dad been on Dan Hooker? Because I imagine it would be different if it was boys, right? Then there's these little rambunctious bastards that just want to play and do the same things dad's doing, and you just drag them into the gym and they're smashing stuff. But
definitely cools your energy down. Definitely, yeah. Definitely, like, man, she could do absolutely anything. Like, she's like teaches me patience, because I've got a world of patience for my daughter when she's doing anything. There's no frustration. I don't tell her to hurry up and do this and do that. Like, I have terrible patience. If there's one person that can teach me patience, it will be my daughter.
So we're talking tea parties, princess outfits, like the whole nine.
She's a girly girl.
Is in.
We have many a tea party. We have a daily or so tea party.
Nice.
You can tin
it. Nice. So, further questions from the research. Your last job, apparently, prior to professional mixed martial artist, was a doorman at Auckland CBD. Please tell me about Auckland CBD and some of the doorman, because if professional fighting started at 18, 19, this is like prime rowdy Dan Hooker years of being a doorman, I imagine. And there's got to be good stories.
Yeah, I did it for a few years. No, it's like a cool job. I was actually like pretty chill. You know what I mean? Like, you're like a skinny, like, white dude. Like, people walk past you and see they're standing there and they're just like, he can't be standing there for no reason. Like, he's got to. But I was like pretty cool, because I was a pretty wild kid. Like, when I would go out, so I would like pretty slow to anger as a doorman. Like, I wouldn't go around like being a tough, like, because you're a fighter and a doorman, like, you've got nothing to prove. It's really like the doormen who are maybe not fighters. They're the ones that have a chip on their shoulder and they're like, man, I got to prove to all other guys that I'm like a tough guy. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I was like, I had nothing to prove. Like, if I wanted to fight, I'd go and fight in a ring. I'd win fights. I'd won many titles and many fights in the octagon or in the ring. So I just had nothing to prove. So I was actually like pretty chill. But it's a wild job.
What kind of club is Auckland CBD? Like, give me a general idea of what it was.
Like, that would shift me around. So I was like, Auckland CBD is like a pretty, man, Auckland's like a weird, it's like a lot of tough guys. There's like a lot of people. There's like a lot of, like, as you know, like our nation, like New Zealand is known for like its fighters, and they don't tend to in New Zealand like use weapons or anything like that. Like, guys are pretty comfortable sorting things out with their hands and challenging each other just for like straight hands. So it is like a pretty tense and like tough city to come up in. But yeah, like, more of it's just using your words to de-escalate situations rather than agitate situations.
But like, are we talking you're bouncing at, you know, nightclubs, people are dance clubs? Are these Are these the biker bars where there's hard
Nah,
men
just
around,
like
or is it just like clubs?
yeah, regular clubs,
All
regular
right,
bars, like they're the ones.
fair enough. And then another thing I wanted to talk to you about, you and I have done a few of these interviews and stuff like that. You've kind of started getting into a little bit of the podcast and media side of things. You had the Frenemies show for a while. You were doing some stuff with the guys over at All Stars. You've got a podcast now. What is it about this side of things and being a host and being an analyst that sort of drew you to that?
I don't know. That's just like, I feel like if people are genuinely interested in like my take and my opinion on stuff, then and then I'm like happy to kind of share it with them. So it's like, yeah, not necessarily anything that like, it's something that I just naturally fell into. It's not something that I had to force or something that I had to really put any effort towards. It's just something that I was pretty naturally inclined.
Well, it's something you're pretty naturally good at. Is it something you will continue to pursue? Like we've seen, obviously, we see current athletes on the desk. We see current athletes doing sort of the ESPN broadcasts, things like that. Might be a little difficult to do it from Auckland, but like say you don't get on, knock on wood. Well, not knock on wood, because I want you to get on the card in February, but say you don't get on the card in February. Is it something that you will speak to the UFC about and be like, look, this is something I think I can do, and I'd love to have an opportunity while you're over here, rather than flying Anthony Smith out? I'm right here. My guys are going to be on the show anyways. Let me sit on this desk.
Nah, nah, nah. I like
I'll
the
just
fight,
do it with
but
friends for shits and giggles. Don't pay me anything. Do
yeah.
it for real.
Nah. Then I have to be serious. I can't be serious for too long.
Fair enough. Well, you've been serious with me for 48 minutes now, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, because if things go well, if things go properly, and I'm going to knock on wood for this one, there will be a fight announcement soon.
Yes.
You will be competing in February, and we'll just have to do this all over again and make this like a regular thing throughout 2023 when we get a whole lot of Dan Hooker action. So I appreciate the time, my man. This has been great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Check out all of the content for the SevereMMA YouTube page. Follow myself at Spencer Kite on Twitter. Listen, you're already following him. You should be. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Instagram. Cheer for him when he fights. He is one of the most entertaining fighters on the UFC roster. Appreciate you being on here, man. Thanks very, very much. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.